Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ankh Ageplay podcast. It has been a while. I know for a fact that a lot of you are looking are like, oh, this is an audio episode. I thought it would be video. It was supposed to be. Camera broke. So the next couple of episodes are going to be like this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to start covering two eras in the age play community. The current era, which I have colorfully nicknamed the Mean Girls era, and the previous era, which is the Glamour Baby era. So we're going to talk about both and really get into how these two eras really affect the community now, and how mistakes that were made during the Glamour Baby era led to a lot of fucking problems that exist today in the Mean Girls era. And that are persistently getting worse. So let's get into it. Yeah. So the Glamour Baby era is roughly between 2013 to 2020. And to really discuss certain things, I was just going to briefly go over the way that ABDL was done in media, because that era, the Glamour Baby era, is where a lot of you guys came into the community. You guys are well acquainted with a lot of the people I'm going to be talking about. By the way, I want to give a quick preface. Please do not attack or go after or say mean things or treat anybody terribly or send threats to anyone. This is not what this episode is for. Yes, there's criticism, but there is nothing here that would warrant any of that. And I expect the best out of my audience. So please do not do silly, stupid shit like that. Thank you. Okay, with that said, let me also preface this. The second part of the podcast is going to talk on the T-blogs, and it'll explain why I've been researching them for a while, because I was planning on doing an episode a while ago, and then I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And then things happened, and I was like, fuck, I guess I should cover this because I've been asked several times to. So we'll talk about it. Getting to the Glamour Baby era. So let's talk about this first. In order for us to talk about the Glamour Baby era, we have to cover the previous eras of media for ABDL. So we're just going to do a quick timeline. So during the 70s, there were a lot of fetish magazines in which people would talk about the different type of kinky sex that they would get into. Some of these magazines, like Forum magazine, would talk about ABDL for long stints of time, and you can actually find these archived on the internet. It is not hard to find. I actually was able to find an entire plethora of these, and I advise a lot of people that if you're going to go and read these, please download them now, because we don't know when the Internet Archive might be taken down, and some of these are saved on there. Yeah, so go out there, find these fucking files, and just save them. And if you could, give me a contact so we can actually, do something about this, because I want to save a lot of these so that we can go back and actually research them over time. If you do have... I know that Diaper has a huge collection of these magazines and stuff that she was given over time. So please go over there and check out her podcast, because she covers some of those magazines. So let's turn the clock back to the 1970s. So ABDL has existed way before the 1970s. However, it was kind of a brand new kink, I guess you could say, that was showing up in the kink community. And I know you're like, but you said it existed before. Yes, but it was a very niche thing. And even though, remember, the kink community originally was filled with very rich people. The kink community was a very rich person type community in the 30s and 40s. Even in the 50s, it was a very niche community that was amongst just the rich. The communities then boiled down during the 70s and 80s to being more of your average person creating their own community. You can actually say that this is based in the nuance of media at the time, because there were sex magazines, Playboy and stuff like that, but there were specific magazines that were for specific kink. And those magazines are like Forum Magazine, which you can actually still find articles and stuff of today. A lot of that is on the Internet Archive, and I advise that if you ever have a chance to really to go and look at some of these ABDL magazines, like old, articles in ABDL magazines, please, by all means, go online and start downloading that stuff now before we lose the Internet Archive. So, yeah, cause that could happen at any point in time, and we don't want this type of media lost. So we need to try to preserve it as best as that we can. Yeah. So we had, during the 70s and 80s, we had the rise of these forum magazines, fetish magazines, stuff like that. What was it? Infantile Analysis, which was a one-shot magazine, I think, that did an entire magazine on ABDL, which, funny enough, I have not been able to find that magazine anywhere, any copy of anything about it. I've even tried to eBay the shit out of this, and I could not find a copy of this magazine. And if anybody has an extra copy of this, of the actual magazine, please contact me and we can talk about a trade or something, because I want to own that magazine, because that is a very interesting magazine. For those of you that don't know, Infantile Analysis was the actual ABDL kink magazine that was supposed to show in the life of ABDLs at the time. If I'm not mistaken, that was a 1980s magazine, early 80s too. It might have been 70s, but it looks like an early 80s magazine. During the 80s, a matter of fact, 1980, there was an AB by the name of Baby Tommy, I believe it was. He was the head of what was called the Diaper Pail Fraternity, which would be known more so by its magazine name. The magazine name that Baby Tommy had was called Diaper Pail Friends. And they had issue after issue that they were released that was more like, I think it was mail order. It's like a mail order magazine type thing. And they essentially, did an entire magazine that really just talked about ABDL and really tried to explain it to those that were either fascinated or interested into it. Really to give a disambiguation from people's misconceptions. Funny enough, Diaper Pail Friends over the years is actually the best way to really talk about this is to really have you guys reference some video on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Down the Rabbit Hole. Frederick Kurtzen does an episode of Down the Rabbit Hole on the furry fandom. By all means, please go and watch that video. And because you'll be shocked at the ABDL community kind of started exactly how the furry community started. And it was instead of it being, a conflict of the sexual side versus the non-sexual side, ABDL was very much in the kink and fetish, sphere. It was already there, and no one was competing on trying to conflict with that. like the furry fandom that had a completely different outtake, where people were like, no, it's this, no, it's this, and then like hate each other over it. I just wanted to make a preface of this, that there is a very huge similarity. Getting back to where we were talking about DPF. With DPF over the years continues to do like these, I guess you could say, mail order magazines. And these mail order magazines varied in the stories and activities that were in the book that talked about it. They had like photos of other ABs, in their nurseries and stuff like that. And over time, Baby Tommy really wanted to try to make it more mainstream, so that people really understood that this was a real thing and to really like get it out there. I think that this was a huge mistake that will be repeated in the future. I am not joking. It's kind of funny that no one learned from this dude's mistake. Nobody learned. You'll be surprised that during the Glamour Baby era, this is repeated multiple fucking times. And we will be talking about each and every fucking one of them. Okay. Baby Tommy decided that he would do an episode of Jerry Springer. I believe the episode was in 1980. I want to say it was 1989. I want to say it was 89 because I saw the rerun of the episode. And then after that, Jerry Springer just used adult babies as a catch-all, shock jock type bullshit for his show. But I remember something specific about the episode that Baby Tommy was a part of. Like in the episode, he actually said it was like towards the end where you get to them just discussing shit. He was like, my whole purpose is not to force anything on you, but to explain to you that it's very possible that the people that you know have a similar interest to this. That for some of you who are parents, you might actually find out that your kid is interested in something like this. Oh boy, for the love of God, why the fuck did he say that? He wasn't wrong, but people took that in a completely different way. But he explained that their kids might be interested in this, and this was not something that they should be shamed for, and it's something that they should be taught about and led to be understood. It's like, you'll be surprised on the people who have this type of interest. He wasn't wrong, but again, wording. Yeah, during that episode, the crowd really does make fun of the people there. But towards the end, people actually asked legitimate questions that weren't like asshole-ish comments. They did ask legitimate fucking questions. And it was fascinating to listen to some of the questions that the people did ask. However, that is probably the worst example of the community, and is probably one of the most cringiest moments of the community. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, he was a pioneer for the whole community. Let me just tell you that the opinions of Diaper Pail friends or the Diaper Pail fraternity has not aged well, and I will explain why in just a moment. But majorly, you could say he's a pioneer because he was essentially the first person to really get on television and talk about this shit. However, a lot of terrible people would start using the name of DPF in ways that they shouldn't have, and that were illegal, obviously. But a lot of these people who claim that they were a part of DPF would go on chat rooms during the AOL era, which is the late 90s into the early to mid 2000s, where they would tell everybody, hey, you know, I'm a part of DPF, you probably have this interest, blah, 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 blah. We should be friends. And it's usually like some 50-year-old man that's just trying to get diaper pictures from like a 15-year-old boy. And some of you that grew up in that era actually know, like some of you who were online at that time, like myself, know about this. It was like, it's where the DPF name went is pretty much like into the lowest depths of hell, essentially, and into the sewers of this community, and a lot of people do not have fond memories of DPF. The members of DPF do, though, because some of them didn't know that, a lot of them did not know that this was going on, and many of them have even said that they don't believe that those people were actually members of DPF, that they were just saying that they were in order to take control over people. And, over the years, that fits. That fits. Yeah, that was a really awful time in the community. But this brings us up to the 2010s and to the current day. So, as far as we had at that time, we had DPF, and we had DPF showing up on Jerry Springer constantly using ABDLs as a catch point for shock jock culture. Then you had the 2000s, where we had like internet predators like using the DPF name in order to like solicit young people into what was obviously predatory practices. Then we are going to move a little bit more forward to actually, there's something I'm missing in the 2000s, because a lot of information on ABDL was non-existent at the time, American-wise anyway. More of the information that I ever got about like ABDL came from Europe, and I learned from like Germany and stuff like that, because Wet Set is in Germany, and there are other like German dungeons and fetish magazines that would talk about like ABDL, diapering, diaper changes, breastfeeding, stuff like that. And it was interesting. That's actually how I learned about the community myself. Marvel Comics. Yeah, Marvel Comics did a reference to ABDL back in around 2006, 2007. This was during the Civil War event, where if you guys do not know what Civil War is, after they did a shitty ass movie about a comic book that was fucking great, then I feel bad for you. If you watch the movie and you're like, oh, I thought the movie was great. Nah, read the comic and you'll understand why I say the movie's shitty compared to in comparison. The comic is freaking, that's actually what got me back into comic books. But Marvel did do a whole ABDL thing. They were talking about it in, I want to say it was Heroes for Hire. I don't remember what issue number, but the villain in the book was the Baby, who was like a gangster who owned his own ABDL nightclub. I'm not even joking. And supposedly this ABDL nightclub was in New York City. I lived in New York City, and if I knew that fucker existed, believe me, I wouldn't have moved. Oh my God. Like, that place was fucking awesome. It was like this whole giant warehouse, and it was like several floors upon floors with nothing but like individual nurseries and stuff, and everybody had a crib and shit. And they were like, everyone's wearing diapers and bonnets and stuff, and they're all dancing at the nightclub. I thought that was actually pretty cool, and I really liked it. And I really loved that comic. However, the mean shit that Colleen Wing and Misty Knight say about ABDLs kind of made me go, oh, maybe not. Yes, but the Baby was actually one of those people. You should be able to look this up on Google on what issue and volume of Heroes for Hire this was. Yeah, this is definitely during Civil War though. Or slightly after Civil War. It's like one of the tie-ins. I know this book happened before Secret Invasion. It was right before Secret Invasion, And I think it was during Civil War. Oh, right. So that was one. The other one was CSI. CSI did an entire episode on ABDL, and that was... But as far as media, it was really quiet during the 2000s. It wasn't until we got to the 2010s when we started getting shows like later media, which is the 2010s. Now, during the 2010s, we ended up with shows similar to on TLC. Let's just go to TLC. The TLC episode, I believe, happened back in early 2010s. In the early 2010s, there was a whole thing about trying to think of the name. What is the name? My Strange Addictions. I'm sorry, I almost blanked out on that. Yeah, My Strange Addictions. So My Strange Addictions comes out, and it's an entire episode that talks about ABDLs. At the time, some people, it was a 50-50 feel on that. Not everybody thought positively of the episode. They thought positively of some of the people that were in the episode, but not everybody. The biggest highlight from that was Baby Ella. She really tried to bring a normal calm to the episode. Please do not confuse Baby Ella with Ella Rain. They are two separate people. Baby Ella was talking about how her and her husband very much like he was her daddy dom and everything, and that like how this was relaxing to her. She loved regressing. She loved like everything about it. There was like this wholesomeness, and she really does explain it. And she like tries to go into intricacies of it. The other parts of the episode start getting into people who are just like very gung ho. I'm not going to mention names right now because I know for a fact that if I mention the name, this person's going to flip the fuck out and like lose their fucking marbles over it because I'm criticizing like them in the episode. But in the episode, they are very gung ho. They loved the community and they're just talking about it. But while they're not bringing a normal person's perspective to it, they are screaming in little. Like that's really what the issue and what made it cringy is. It looks cringy because this is an episode where you're supposed to try to explain this to everything. To people that are normies. But when you scream and explain in little, it comes off really fucking cringy. It is not the best. And I absolutely believe that they actually use this person to be the contrast. And I went back to watch this and I kept cringing on it. And I was like, they absolutely did that because they could have asked this person to like, you know, tone it down a bit, but they absolutely were not. And oh gosh, yeah, that like, even the Baby Ella portions have its cringe to it. And it's like, Ella did her best. Like everybody in there did their best, but they were in like international waters at this point. Like to do a phrase, they were practically they were in the lion's den and they had no idea what the fuck they were doing. Again, they tried. At the very least, they tried. But when you look back at this shit now, it is cringe as fuck. And it did not help the community. Don't worry, we got more media that will not help the community. However, we did end up getting a celebrity at some point in time at this point. Yeah, hold on. So, like as the media went on around the 2013 point, I had a mommy dom that had talked me into actually doing podcasts or a vlog series that really would talk about ABDL. And so I did, and I actually did make this series. it was like I did my first like playtime videos where I recorded a playtime because that was also a part of her suggestion. And I had that, like everything that I had at the time was 18, like, you had to be 18 plus. And there was nothing inherently sexual or anything that I did in the content. It was just like a playtime with me and action figures. I believe it was supposed to be like all the superheroes versus Doomsday. And like, they were like, it was a really fun, like, time. I had a blast doing that, playing with my action figures at the time. I think you can still find those on the YouTube channel. I'm pretty damn sure all the playtime videos are still on the YouTube channel. But I thought that those were good ideas. Again, even my take on this, I look back at it and damn, that was cringe as fuck. I look back at it because I didn't know what I was doing, and I originally was like trying to make ABDL comfortable for those that were new in the community. So it still comes off cringe because I wasn't actually thinking. Like, I didn't think of the implications of what could come about from that. And like, yeah, you're introducing a lot of people to this fun time that you can be having wearing a diaper and playing with action figures, but at the same time, you're not really thinking about the overall message that's being sent to new ABDLs. Like the idea is that you should be teaching, and instead of just showing. And that was the problem. I was showing the fun part, but not teaching the part that I should have been. But I want to say that I have an excuse, but I'm not going to accept it as an excuse. At the time, I was more focused on etiquette, because you have to understand that ABDLs during this point in time were, oh God, we really had a shit name in the early 2010s. It wasn't until the end of the 2010s, after all of us podcasters came out and really changed the view of the community, did we actually get a better name. And let's be honest with that. You can see a vast difference from those of you that came into the community in the 2010s, like 2013, 2012, or even before that. Tell me there isn't a gigantic difference to the community now than it was then. Because fuck. And you really got the chance to see that change, like, during the, 2017, 2018 time period. That's when, ABDL felt more accepted. But, again, let's go back. The reason why I was saying about the etiquette, why I focused on that, is that during the 2000s and the early 2010s, you had a lot of middle-aged white dudes that were going out in full sissy gear, walking in like Mary Jane shoes, diaper fucking showing under, like short dress bloomers, high stockings and everything, going outside broad fucking daylight, walking around regular society to embarrass themselves. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of older white dudes. And I know you're like, why does he keep saying older white dudes? Because you didn't see any other fucking nationality doing it. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying that as this was something that was more prevalent, because they were like older white men were more prevalent in the community than any other culture. It wasn't until much later into the community's lifespan of the 2010s did you start seeing it become way more diverse. If you ask me or Mommy Also Cute or even some of the, some white members of the community, ask them, how many black people did you see, or people of color for that matter, did you see in the community in the early 2010s? None. It was one or two. And very few of them on that. And I've talked about why that was. And oh gosh, yeah. And if you could go and look at the episode, there's a previous podcast episode where I talk about this, about why people of color are not so much we're not so much in the community back in the early 2010s. And then like now you can go to an event and you see a lot of black people attend those. There's a lot of reason. Let's keep going, because we're running, like, I don't want this to be super long, but it's going to be, sadly. I'm sorry. Major point of contention is that, like, during those 2010s, you had these guys going out there fucking revealing themselves, doing these whole exhibition walks in front of like entire crowds and shit, making complete total asses of themselves. You had like the older grandpa who was doing drag and just looking angry in every fucking picture that he took, and like he would wear a diaper, but he's wearing like a full-on dress, heels, some lipstick and a wig. And I know you guys are like, why are you ragging on him for that? No, I'm not ragging on him for doing that. That's not what it is. The thing is that when you are a sissy and you go and do all of this sissy stuff, a lot of times people do it because it makes them feel happy. Like, you're excited for this. You're smiling and shit. I don't know if these were humiliation kinks or something that they were doing for themselves. I don't know. But they would always stand there like they were taking a fucking mugshot and mug the fuck out of everybody when they did their pictures. And I kept saying, why the fuck are these people so angry that they're taking these pictures like this? But this was the type of time that we had. Like, girl, if you're gonna wear the dress, the wig, and all this other stuff, all this extra shit, and doll yourself up, smile, bitch. Jesus. Like, don't go over there mean mugging. Smile. People want to see you smiling, see you having an enjoyment of yourself. Anytime I used to see them smile, I'm like, yes, this is what I like to see. Don't stand there and mean mug. Anyway. This is the type of stuff, like, during this time period, you would have, like I said, these older white dudes going out there. There's a video of a guy who decided to go in full sissy gear, sit in his car, drive somewhere, walk up to a group of teenage girls. I don't know how old they were. They look like they were like college level, like college teens, like in their 18 and 19. Walk up to them, and then like he's just wearing a t-shirt and like a diaper and plastic pants, like a cloth diaper and plastic pants, just to have them kick him in the nuts. And like he went up there, and you could clearly see he braces himself for it. And I'm like, why the fuck are you all doing shit like this? Like, what the fuck are you doing? And it was this type of shit that made the community look bad. And then like, it's kind of funny because a lot of people go after the sex workers today and like yell at them for this type of shit because they compare it to that. Let me tell you something right now. The sex workers go to places that have no people. If it has no people, I don't care. That's perfectly fine. It's when you're going up to a group of people and revealing yourself to a whole fucking crowd is when I have a fucking issue. Because there could be children there. There could be all these fucking people there. Like, don't do dumb shit. But again, I'm getting mad in hindsight because this is shit that happened years ago. I thought to focus on etiquette. I thought that if we focus on etiquette, we can start making the community look better. And I used to get messages from people saying, thank you for saying this. Like, yo, you're putting in a lot of work to get the community acting right. I didn't believe I was making a fucking difference. I felt that no one was listening. That's how I felt back then. I discovered that wasn't true, but nonetheless, that's how I felt. Again, you have to understand this was a different point in time and I had a different mindset due to what I was seeing. Now we're going to move on to the introduction of of who came after me. You have Baby Mina. I think Baby Mina might have started slightly before me. I think her podcast started a couple of months before mine. Baby Mina. Then you have, like, she used to do episodes that talked about ABDL, and she talked about sexual ABDL, like what it was that she really enjoyed about role play, like the dynamics, what was cool about it, what people should try, different dynamics in role play that they could do, how to incorporate BDSM. She was someone that was a pioneer of that type of podcast. And then after Baby Mina, now remember, Baby Mina was also like my first co-host that I ever had on my podcast. The second person that I had was Mouse, and that didn't come until years later. And then, it was my mommy Dom is technically the first actual co-host. She was interviewed in the early ones. That was Mommy Jasmine. And then we had Mina. Then after Mina was Mouse. Then after, during the same time as Mouse, we got another co-host, and that was Queso, my partner Queso. Mouse is and I'm dating Mouse, so that's two of my partners have been actual people that were on the podcast. I know some of you are like, what happened to those Baby Mina episodes? They are no longer available because I was asked to take them down. I compromised to have them privated because of the fact that by deleting those episodes would delete a majority of our fucking views from the early days. We have more views now, but deleting those would cut that in half. We worked hard for those views, so and I didn't want all of our hard work, her and I's hard work, to go to waste. So I privated them. She knows. However, she left the community to go in because she had another kid, and I think she had a third kid. And her and her husband repaired their marriage and everything, and she lived happily ever after, leaving the community online and never really doing anything else. That leads us to that's Mina's pictures are still online. I think people still share a lot of her photos from when she used to upload them onto Daily Diaper and stuff like that. So that still exists out there. Getting back to what I was saying, there was a lot of people that really pioneered the new age of media for the ABDL community. My podcast was one. Mina's podcast was one. During this time, a little bit later, I guess this would be 2014, 2015, Binky Princess came about. Binky Princess was around, and Binky was doing, Binky brought a shit ton of new people to the community. Because Binky, while doing her YouTube, got contacted at some point to actually do a special. So Binky thought that she would be doing the community a favor by attending, being on this special. And I think it was done by Lab Bible. I don't remember who did this, but they straight up butchered this girl's reputation. It was pure character assassination. Then again, Binky also decided to go on this fucking show with a boyfriend that she knew he was a heroin addict and shit. And apparently during a panel at TeddyCon of 2017, Binky actually told us that she was being abused by this dude, early on, during the time that it was going on, and he was freaking the fuck out. And then there was one point he started doing heroin during filming. It was fucking crazy. She told us the backstory to that whole fucking thing. They had 40, 50, maybe 60 something hours of fucking footage, and they cut it down all the way down to 4 minutes. 40 something fucking hours of footage, and you 40 plus hours of footage, and you cut it down to 4 minutes and start chopping up her words to make her say things that she did not say. They made her say she didn't work and that she was a full-time baby and stuff like that. That's not what she said though. That was not what she had said. And during the time, I think that she had a job as a babysitter, and that actually became a real hard fucking problem because people started looking at her in a way that was not right. And it was all because they had twisted her fucking words. This is what I mean by, like, a lot of ABDLs did unnecessary fucking shit to push us into the media that absolutely hated us. Like, we were still suffering the side effects of what Baby Tommy had did by going on fucking Jerry Springer. And the idea of this opening new doors is really, really shitty. Like, it was really shitty. This is why My Strange Addictions did not work out very well. Why it's considered cringe. Even back then it was still considered cringe. And I gave you the reasons why. And then when Binky did this, that ruined almost everything. But it ended up introducing more people, like, to ABDL. And what happened, and introducing them to Ageplay. And the funny part is, Binky created one of the biggest fucking issues in the community today. And she was told that back then about this. And she said, fuck everybody, I'm not doing it. It was, oh God, this was fucking stupid. There was a lot that came out of this. And during that time, I made a podcast episode where it was a vlog episode. It was a part of the FET vlogs, actually. During the FET vlogs, I made an episode where I actually talked about this. And I was like, hey, we really should start thinking and talking about doing things that make more sense. Because we need to be more educational. And the reason for it is because a lot of us are out here fucking talking about all the cute shit that we're buying, all the cute diapers, how much they hold, giving diaper reviews, and doing all of this. That's all fine and dandy. Like, I love it. Keep bringing that shit out. However, do not think that we don't draw in people because of Binky's, Binky's whole thing of being on that 4-minute fucking show that completely character assassinated her, that did not intrigue certain people into wanting to be in the community and actually learning more about it. Oh boy. Yeah, that is by far the worst shit. That is by far the worst shit. And I kept saying, guys, no. This is going to have the same effect that it did with the Jerry Springer shit. It's like, we're going to attract people who are going to want to know more about this, but they're not going to find any fucking information. Some of the people that found my podcast have told me, they were like, oh yeah, I was a teenager and I found your podcast and I learned a lot from you. You were explaining things and concepts that the others weren't doing. And I was like, guys, you have to understand, I knew this was coming. And I kept saying, guys, please start talking about the community, explaining concepts, explaining certain shit. Please do that. I still to this day remember the post that Binky made, and she's like, I'm not going to fucking talk about something that I don't feel like I want to talk about. And I'm not going, and no one's going to force me to talk about different subjects. And I was like, and so I made a response to that post, and I said, that's perfectly fine. But do not cry to me when we end up when the whole fucking community has a whole fucking problem that we can't fucking stop. And it is going to get completely out of fucking control. I was like, I'm telling you, people, talk more shit about the community, explaining concepts. You want to know who actually did come to the rescue of this? Who actually did start talking concepts and explaining shit? A certain person that you all know that works for an immature shop. Yeah, I'm talking about Lolly Lalas. Lolly actually did episodes that actually did explain concepts, and I was so fucking proud of Lolly. Lolly was explaining shit and actually getting to the nitty gritty of explaining the community. At least there was someone fucking doing it. Binky, who had all the fame in all the world, did not do it, nor did she care. And, oh Lord, This was the stupidest thing. This was one of the things I got really angry with her about. And I had talked to her when we had met in 2017, and I just pointed this out and let out all of my frustration. And I was like, you had the chance to curb something and you didn't. And now it's a fucking problem. And she like kind of realized I was right. And she's like, yeah, I regret not doing a lot of shit now. Like, I regret being on that TV show. I regret all of this. And I'm like, that's fine and dandy. That's not taking it back. And there's no way for you to take it back. So that's superfluous. So I don't know why, like, I understand your guilt. I understand why you feel the way you do, but it don't matter. It just don't matter. Oh God, it was so bad. Like, I tried my damnedest to try to explain this to her. And I kept saying, girl, please, all you have to fucking do is please just fucking listen to someone. Like, just don't do this. Like, don't go out there and just constantly talk about the shit that you're buying and all the cute stuff and how cute you look in all your baby clothes. No. We need to do some type of teaching. Like, the community needed it. I knew that a lot of these people, because they were just like me, who was a teenager, who went out there and just found this shit on the internet. Because that's what teens do. When you're a teenager, the major thing that most teens do, and they've been doing since their fathers were teenagers and their grandfathers were teenagers. Like, think about it. How many dirty magazines did your dad have hidden under his bed? And then like, the internet existed for you. And when the internet existed for you, it was like, you don't have to hide it under your bed. You can hide it in thin air. See, this is what I was talking about. I knew that was going to happen. Because again, I was similar to these people. So were some of you coming into the community. A lot of you ended up seeing her content. A lot of you saw other people's content. And the more that you saw, the more it became enticing to you and what you wanted to experience. Now, this is where CGL comes in. But to explain CGL, I have to explain the concept and the reason why CGL and Age Re existed in the first fucking place. How CGL got redeemed and how Age Re is the fucking problem all of a sudden. So let's talk about it. When you're a teenager and you're in high school, if you live in America, I don't know what it's like in the schools in other fucking countries. I'm guessing it would be the same fucking idea in Japan, because that's the way anime depicted it. I don't know if that's true, if it's the same thing in Korea, which it possibly is. Schools are designed to be simulations of actual real life. They are made to be examples of what the hierarchy of society is. And for people to see what how those hierarchies stay, how you can move up and down the social status. But it's all based in a currency of people, of the public opinion. That's the way it works. And the reason why I say the currency of public opinion is because with more positive public opinion, that gives you a net positive that puts you at the higher scales of that society mark. So what I'm describing to you is the popular kids, the jocks, the fucking nerds, the goths, the outsiders, and all those that don't fit in any of those categories, which are the rejects. I'm actually explaining this to you because this is where the mindset and how CGL was formed. A lot of these people that are in these higher social statuses in these schools then believe that if they do anything that could give a negative mark to their social status, that'll automatically bring them down and they'll lose the friendships and shit that they had. Which is kind of funny because you see today's society of people in the political sphere and they are just like don't understand why this fucking happens. Mind you, they were in high school at one point. The different social statuses that exist are, they can't move away from it, because at those ages of being a teenager, you personally believe that anything that happens while you're that age is forever. Meaning, no matter what you do, no matter what you try, you will never outlive high school. You will never outlive middle school. You will never outlive grade school. Everything that you have done throughout those different time periods are forever stuck with you, which is kind of fucking weird that they didn't realize that doesn't exist. Because if you go from grade school to middle school, you're usually in a different middle school, right? Unless your middle school and grade school are combined, like mine's was. Like some schools go from pre-K to 8th grade, which is grade school to middle school, right? Then you have high school. Those that left middle school go into high school, and they're in a brand new situation, and we're back to the same. It's a whole reset. But a lot of those people don't believe it's a reset. They believe it's a continuation. And thus, they immediately get put, like, into these weird categories where they're like, where someone who was popular in high school or in middle school is now no longer popular. He's the geek. Or the person that was the nerd in middle school is now considered one of the cooler kids in this new high school. Does this happen? Yes. The reshuffling of social society, of the social standing. Not social society, but social standing. And we don't teach kids this in school. But they inertly learn it because it's built to be that way. And it's inertly toxic. And because of that mindset, because of the way that social status is built, when they get to the age to come into something, when they're a teenager and they're trying to discover themselves, figure out whether they're trans, whether they're gay, whether they're really into, or if they're asexual or not, when they start going through the whole puberty method, the whole puberty experience, I don't know why I say method, the whole puberty experience, and discovering all these new fucking things, it starts to have an effect. Because what happens is that those ideas of social society being stuck in this social status starts to affect your thought on how the fuck you're feeling. It's really stupid. So that's when you start getting the bullies and all the other shit that happens in those times in school. That's what happens. That's how you get there. Now, you take that social standing simulation that I just fucking gave you, that all schools have, and then apply it to a teenager that discovers ABDL, and them wanting to find more of their peers that share the same fucking interest that they have. How do you share that in a thing that is based on public perception? So they start trying to sell it as a net, I wouldn't say a net negative, but a net neutral. They start trying to sell it that way amongst their peers. And then once one peer hears it and gets, or two people discover they have the same interests, they're trying to find more like themselves. What other thing copies this? The actual kink community. The thing is that they're trying to find and trying to make it socially acceptable. So what they did is that they started telling stories about age regressors. Because understand this, in the community, age regressors were always non-sexual. age regression has always been a non-sexual conversation, right? They start trying to sell age regression because that there's an actual therapy for age regression. Age regression therapy and what they're doing are two separate fucking things. What they are doing is finding out that they actually have a kink. But what's happening is that they are trying to sell it to their peers in a way that's way more acceptable so that it gives a net neutral to the public perception. That's what is fucking happening. So, now they have built this idea of this net neutral thing, and then they start making their own Instagrams. And then they start sharing it online. I'm non-sexual. I'm doing this because I need to cope. I have a lot of issues. I have this. I have that. I've been abused. There's a lot of trauma that needs to be coped with. And I need to do that. They're not coping with fucking trauma, because notice that they start taking pictures and they start trying to copy, like, yeah. Now, when people that are of age are seeing this in the community does not stay quiet. The community straight out tells these minors, you do not have a place here. You come back here when you're 18. Do not come here when you're under the age of 18. No minors in kink. So now they feel like they've been rejected. And again, we're going right back to that social status now. They feel that they have gotten the net negative because they have been rejected by people that they are looking up to at the moment. So now they have now reached out. I don't know why I'm doing hand gestures when you motherfuckers can't fucking see me. Anyway, they are now coming down. Now they view it as a net negative, because the community is not selling their bullshit. So now they have to find another way to sell the bullshit. And they came up with, well, people, the reason why age play is considered weird is because people call their boyfriends and their girlfriends, mommy and daddy. So the only way to fix this is by removing the mommy-daddy aspect. Hence how CGL came about. The idea of CGL came about because it was the idea that if you take the mommy-daddy aspects of the kink out, meaning the mommy-dom, daddy-dom aspects out of the idea, and just make it an average caregiver, right? Then that will associate it more with the therapy than with the actual kink. Wrong. They think that now, by doing that, it's going to somehow fix the entire problem. That by doing this, it's going to fix everything. Right? If you associate this, then it'll be way more acceptable. So then, you start getting more CGL posts online, and people making posts online saying, do not interact if you're CGL. Do you guys remember that? That was 2017, 2018, 2019. It was, and actually it only lasted 2 years, because in 2019 we started using CGL in the community. Ooh, yeah. A lot of people forget the history of where the fuck this comes from. Alright, so let's keep going, right? So now they started going online and introducing themselves in the chat rooms. Oh man, this is starting to sound like the 2000s, isn't it? Like how those guys that were pretending to be DPF were in chat rooms trying to solicit these young people, right? These underage, these fucking minors. So, yeah. See how this is going? The minors started making their own chat rooms. You can actually still find these chat rooms, because guess where they are? You can find them on Discord. You can find them on Facebook. And there's some that are still on Tumblr. Like, they made these groups, these forum boards and Discords that are for these underagers to go out and fucking find like caregivers. That's the way that they put it. They're like, if the caregiver is a predator, I will know, and then I don't have to listen to them anymore, and I'll just leave. That's not how the fuck that works, you fucking idiot. But don't worry, they grown. That, as for those of you that are culturally entwined, that is, you actually understand that statement. I'm not sure about everybody else. Yeah. You have a lot of people that will, like, these teenagers that were straight up like, I'm grown, I know how to protect myself, and then they get groomed. And it became a really bad fucking problem. I do believe that over time, Binky actually realized that, like, fuck, I really should have said something. And really should have taught about the community instead of just showing off shit and trying to be glamorous. But Binky wasn't the only one doing that. Sandwiches was another person that actually had found that. But you see, when Sandwiches did this was later. This is 2018. Sandwiches went out there and showed this video of her meeting her daddy for the first time, and the two of them had been like a long distance relationship, and they finally got to meet each other. And it was one of the sweetest fucking videos ever, where she's at the airport and she's holding her little sign, and he sees her and he goes, "Hi." And she runs to him and jumps and hugs him, and she's crying, and we're crying watching it. Fuck. I'm crying right now because it was one of the sweetest fucking things I ever saw. I love Sandwiches' videos because of that. And I thought that she was fucking awesome for, like, posting something like this. That was something so sweet and heartwarming. Yet that was also an issue. And I will explain why. Yes, that was beautiful, heartwarming shit. And I do believe they got married shortly after that. They did get married. Because I do remember the proposal. I used to watch her stuff. I don't know if she still does stuff, but we had a whole bunch of other ABDLs starting to show up in the community at the time. And what was happening is that, and age players, please understand that every time I throw ABDL in there, I'm also explaining age play. I know I keep screwing that up. Bear with me. With her videos, young teenagers who are like the ones that are 18 who are 18 now with CGL are really pissed because they're not getting anywhere, and now that they're 18, they're joining communities and actually learning what they didn't understand. A lot of people saw the videos with Sandwiches and they're like, that's what I want. I want that. Cause she has an age regressive relationship, and it's so beautiful, and they love each other, and it's just one of the most heartwarming things ever. And those same exact people started trying to find that shit in online, like amongst their own peers, and once again ending up in situations where they were getting groomed. It was again a situation that was inevitable. In the case of Sandwiches was very much a day in the life. That's the way her videos always came off. So I wouldn't expect someone that's doing videos like that to really teach about anything. It's just like them talking about them and their experiences, which is perfectly fine. However, the people that ended up loving Sandwiches' content, because by this time Binky's content was disappearing, started to see more and more stuff. And it was not helping that with the rise of the popularity of ABDLs, we were starting to get clothing group, like stores and stuff like that online. And you had minors that were buying onesies and minors that were buying diapers and showing off their fucking shit all over Tumblr. And it was a problem. And it still is a fucking problem. But now they're not so much showing off their stuff like that. They're doing something else that's just as bad. But as heartwarming as Sandwiches' show was, like, again, people are seeing this and getting the misconceptions again. This is where age restarts coming in. Binky stops doing YouTube for a while, after a while, and Baby Blair comes in, and Blair did a better job, I think, because Blair actually did explain concepts and talk about shit. I really appreciated Blair for that. If I'm not mistaken, she did. Like, I remember watching some of her stuff where she really talks about it. Whether she did a good job on it or not, I mean, content is content at this point. Like, that's irrelevant. Like, the most relevant points that we should be talking about is whether or not it got across. And I think that it did with some people. With a lot of people, actually. This pushes me to go and talk about the other shit that took place around this time. You started having a more of a higher rise of ABDLs on YouTube and stuff. Blonde Baby Boy, I don't know if he still does stuff, but he was doing stuff in the early 2010s, and all the way up to the 2020s, I believe. I don't know if he still does stuff. I haven't looked. But then you started getting a lot of Australian and New Zealanders that would talk about ABDL. You had other English, people in England talking about ABDL, and other dominatrixes and mommies getting online and really discussing certain concepts. And this became incredibly helpful because it curbed a lot of the stuff. However, the rise of age will not be stopped. It's like a Skynet. It's not going to be stopped. The rise of age came about because you had a lot of minors who were not getting their questions answered by people while they were minors, and they were upset, and they felt that the community was keeping them out because of the fact that the community was a stuck-up fucking place. Not realizing that, like, the horrible implications of what the issues were, really. They weren't understanding that. And they ended up coming to the conclusion and pushing, like, nonsensical talking points. Like, really nonsensical talking points. Case in point, the nonsensical talking points that you'll have is that they were trying to say that age regression is this pure thing and it helps people with coping with trauma and everything. Again, can age regression help with coping with trauma? Yes, as long as you are actually getting over the trauma. If you're not getting over the trauma and you're constantly coping, then that's not helping shit. You're like, it's counterproductive. So this goes to my point again. What the fuck were they thinking that they were healing? Because were they actually healing or not? Because a lot of them just keep yelling trauma, trauma, trauma. And then they the more that they are in the community, the further that they have to try to make themselves feel special. I know some of you are like, that's a really shitty take. Is it? Think about it. And I mean, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. No, like, really fucking think about it. When it comes to a lot of age regressors that are on the internet, a lot of them are no longer trying to heal from their trauma. They're trying to use their trauma to make them feel special. Because if everybody's an age regressor, no one's special. They don't stand out. And because they have isolated themselves from almost everybody else, they don't stand out and they can't feel special. So they start adding trauma to themselves and then giving into really terrible behaviors. And because a lot of them were minors when they first discovered this shit, they are like, well, Now it's perfectly fine for us to call our boyfriend or girlfriend daddy or mommy because the net, I don't know where the net negative, net positive, net neutral fucking scale happened on this shit. But then they just straight out are just like, it's therapy. Yeah, okay, it's therapy, right? But that's what a lot of the people were saying about CGL, and that wasn't true. And we're just repeating the same talking points, but we've just scrapped the idea of the whole caregiver shit because the kink community took that. So now we're up to doing the mommy daddy shit again. And we're like, oh, okay, well, where is this? Well, I'm healing. And then you had YouTubers that were starting to aim at enticing, like, minors. And I think you guys know who I'm talking about. There was a podcast, a YouTuber called Christian or something like that. I believe they are non-binary, and they were non-binary, but I don't know how I'm just going to say they because I don't know how they, identify. But I believe they were non-binary, and they were telling everybody about age regression and like telling them it was perfectly okay, but not telling them how to be safe or anything, and just constantly pushing this idea of the pureness of age regression. And I love this because if I'm not mistaken, you can go to Lolly Lala's YouTube page and actually see Lolly combat the bullshit that this person was talking. And it's not just Lolly. Evie Lupine even talked about how Christian was doing this. I believe the name of the person was Christian. I believe that, I don't think their YouTube channel was called that. It was something else. But I believe the YouTuber was known as Christian. It was so stupid. And like, the more that I listened to what Christian was saying, and the more I kept saying, wow, this person's a fucking idiot. And why are you telling these people to do shit like this? And it became a serious fucking issue. Like, it was a real serious fucking problem. And for some reason, they didn't think that, maybe we shouldn't be saying shit like this. Maybe we shouldn't be, like, telling people that it's okay to do, like, to reach out to different people like this. It was cringe as fuck. And once again, we hit a point where where the community became divided because Christian started pushing this idea that like age regression or age was this purity in the community. And like, some people adopted it like a fucking religion, and it became culty. Like the culty shit that you see from some age online right now. Like, that's how we got here. All this shit rose from the Glamour Baby era. Like, all of this shit rose from that era. That's how we ended up with a lot of the issues that we have now. But, remember that social standing thing? Tell me why the community started to adopt that. They started to adopt that wrong thing. And that became a major fucking issue. Which rises to the next era. Which rises to the current era. Which rises to the Mean Girls era. The rise of T-boards. T-boards are probably the most cancerous thing in the community. And we will be discussing more of that in part 2. Thank you for being here for today's podcast episode. Part 2 will be out the following day. Please, by all means, listen to both. Because once you've listened to this one, I know you're going to want to know about the T-boards. I want to give a quick preface right now. The tea boards came about in the 2017s, during the Glamour Baby era. And when I cover the tea boards, I'm going to have to come back and cover some shit from 2017 to 2020. There is a reason why these tea boards came about and what happened. And a certain group of people do have blame for this. They do. So there will be a short intermission explanation that I'm going to have to do for this episode. So for episode 2, I mean, there's going to be a short intermission thing that I have to do. So there's going to be 3 parts, actually. Probably, maybe. I'm not sure. I might just put it into the beginning because it does kind of talk about the toxicity that came about in the community, that came about from the tea boards. So, yeah. We'll be right back. This is the end of part 1. We'll be right back. And then we'll cover part 2. I'll see you in a bit.